Okay, today is a review day. We have decided to put the test on Tuesday, which means this is the first of two review days. In class today, you're going to take a quiz, which was regarded as, firm but fair by the other class. I didn't hear any complaining like, this is impossible, but it was also not easy. This quiz, in case you're missing today, is posted as a link on my Schoology page. If you're in class today, of course, you're probably not listening to this anyways. So, anyway, this quiz that you're about to take has binomial expansion on it. So the first question I want you to try is, I think I said 2x, didn't I? Okay, because you can use any variable. Minus 1 to the fourth. All right, so how are you going to get those? How many blanks are there? 5 blanks. Now, I'm actually going to, I'm going to spread it out across the whole screen because these are kind of crowded. Like, there's a lot of numbers for each term. Okay, I personally have not got this memorized off of Pascal's triangle because clearly that didn't work out so well. All right, so if I needed to, I could make Pascal's triangle. It doesn't take very long. 1, 1, 1. 1, 2, 1, 1, 3, 3, 1, and then just keep going where these two together will make the one underneath it. Those two make the one underneath it. You can do it that way. Or you can find these lead coefficients by going, well, if I had done 4 to the fourth, 4 to the third, 4 to the second, 4 choose 1, and 4 choose 0, it looks like it would work. You see how you can tell if it worked? Stress ball. All right, so do you get, if you had tried this, 5, choose 5, and then done it all the way down, at the end it would have been 5, choose 1, and then you would have noticed, oh, the answer at the end isn't 1. Do you get the beginning number is a 1 and the end number is always a 1? If you haven't noticed that about the triangle, the beginning and the end are always 1. So you'd quickly realize, oh, shoot, I did it wrong. You see what I'm saying? All right, so then I'm going to change this over to 4s. So it was 4 choose 4, 4 choose 3, etc., all the way down to 4 choose 0, and 4 choose 0 is 1 at the end. All right, so to save us some time, it starts with a 1, ends with a 1. Remind me, what is it again? 4, 6, 4, 1, is that what it is? Okay. Then I need to go from the top down on this next one. I'm going to change colors. 2x to the fourth, 2x to the third, 2x to the second, 2x to the first, and I don't need to do 2x to the 0 because it's just 1. All right, then I'm going to do the last one in green, and it doesn't really matter where it goes. I'm going to slap it in the front. And besides, if it's negative, that's kind of a logical place for it. So I'm going to put a negative 1 to the 0, but that's, be careful now, it's not negative 1. Anything to 0 is defined as positive 1. Okay, and then negative 1 to the first, negative 1 to the second, negative 1 to the third, and negative 1 to the fourth. Okay, so clean it all up. Here's your final answers. 2 to the fourth is 16, x to the fourth. And this one's got a negative 1 to the 1, which makes it negative. 2 to the third is an 8 times the 4 is 32, negative 32, x to the third. This one, negative 1 gets squared, so it's not negative. 2 squared is 4, 4 times 6, 24, x squared. And then negative 8x, and last but not least, plus 1. Whew, there it is. Raise your hand if you binomial expanded. Okay, good. Then, here's the different way I could have asked the question. I could have said, which term had an x squared in it? Now, if that had asked that from the beginning, and they didn't need the whole answer, they just needed which term has an x squared in it, do you get, it's pretty easy to tell it's not the first term and it's not the last term, but you might have to figure out the 3 terms in the middle until you figure out which one had an x squared in it. Okay, so the point is, if they give you a question and say, like, one of the terms had a lead coefficient of -8, write out that term. You could just do the whole thing. It's just and then find which one matches. Or you could use logic and go, well, it can't be the first one. It can't be the last one. I'll find the middle ones. Okay? All right. So there's different ways we could ask that. Next kind, blank, comma, blank, comma, blank, comma, 17. Can you tell me anything about this sequence? The fourth term is 17. True. Can you tell me the R? Nope. Can you tell me the D? No. Could you tell me the A? Nope. But as soon as I give you one more term, be careful now. Oh, let's make it 34. There. Now you can have a suspicion on what's going on. You can suspect that that's being doubled, right? But you know that for sure? No, because it could be arithmetic or geometric. All right, because if it's just adding, well, then they must have added 17, and they could have been doing that every single time, right? So if I give you two terms in a row, it still doesn't tell you for sure what's going on. But what if I gave you three terms in a row? Wouldn't you be able to for sure tell? All right, so let's say that this term was 0. Now, dot, 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 as in this sequence will continue and go on forever, would you be able to tell what A is? Yeah, you could go back in time, like so to speak, and figure out what A is. Would you be able to tell what D, the common difference, is? Yeah, a lot of you already know we're adding 17 every time, right? So then could you tell me what the 17th term is? Yeah, you could. Now, it'd be really handy if you had those formulas. I'll write out the proper formula that you'd want to use for this one. Okay, this one is, I don't need to know the sum of them right now. I just want to know what's the, I don't want to say 17th, that's a little obnoxious. Let's just do the 8th term. What's the 8th term in this sequence? Well, I've given you enough to know what the common difference is, and you can figure out what the first term would have been, like A, and then you'll have it. So let's see if you can use this formula. Nope. What's wrong with that formula? That's geometric. Very good. Which formula is it? Does anybody have it? D times what? N minus 1. Very good. Now, don't worry. You'd have a formula sheet that you could look that up on. But you'd had to know that it was arithmetic, because they'll be just labeled as arithmetic formulas, geometric formulas, and you'll have to figure out which one works for what. Okay, so now try to figure out the 8th term. I will pause for a second. There's more than one way to do this. What I would like you to not do is just use a calculator and take 34 plus 17 plus 17 plus 17 plus 17, because I know you could get it that way, but then you're not even using the formula, and that won't work on the test. Yes? I'm going to let you figure out any way you want to figure out that. Okay? The only thing I'm saying is don't just go, oh, I'm going to keep adding 17 to find the 8th term. Use this formula. Believe me, when you're done with the test, you'll have used a formula on almost every problem. So you got to know how to use the formulas. All right, I'm going to pause for a second. Let me give that one a try. Okay, I'm seeing a lot of kids that appear to be done. So S sub n, well, which one do I want? I want the 8th term. S sub 8, I could say. It's not an infinity, and it's an 8. Probably an unfortunate number to pick. That probably should have said 6th term. So it doesn't look like an infinity, but sideways. All right, and then A, yeah, it's not a bad idea to just subtract a couple times to figure out what the first one would have been, which would be negative 34. Raise your hand if you knew it was negative 34. Okay, good. So A is negative 34 plus D, what is the common difference? 17 times n minus 1. Well, what term do I want? The eighth term. That goes in as the n. 8 minus 1 is 7. So there you go. S sub 8 would be negative 34 plus 17 times 7, which is 70. 7 is 49. 119. Okay. And help me out. What's that last answer? I don't have a calculator. 80 what? Anybody verify 85? Okay, cool. So that's an example of how you could use a formula to figure out the nth term, whatever term you want. All right, there's a lot of formulas. I don't want to go through every kind of formula. That's what you get to do with your little quiz here. Okay, so one last thought. The harder kind are going to not put the terms right next to each other, so it isn't so obvious what... Let's say I give you this term as a 2, and this term is a 42. Now, could you use guess and check to figure out what term is, like what's happening in between? Well, you could, if I told you it was arithmetic, you'd know it was adding something each time. That wouldn't be that hard to do. If I told you it's geometric, you could know I was multiplying by something each time. And yeah, you could guess and check, but it isn't probably going to work on the test, especially if we throw in variables in here. So just trust me, it's best to use the formulas for this. If this is geometric now, if it's geometric, let's figure out what A and R must be. Well, first thought, don't just try to guess and check your way to figure out what happened. Use a formula. Here's the formula for any term. Now, some of you are going to write an equation, you're going to go, but I have two variables. That's okay, because you're going to have two equations. And if you have two equations and you have two variables, you can solve it. It's called a system of equations. All right, I'm going to pause for a second while you confer with the people nearby and see what you think the two equations are. I don't even need you to solve it all the way. Just write down what you think the two equations are that would be used in your little system of equations. Okay. I hope you noticed it was 2 equals, I don't know A, I don't know R, but I know it's the n minus 1 part because I know it's the second term, so this would be 2 minus 1, when 2 minus 1 is, of course, 1. And then 2 equals A times R to the 1. Do you get it be pretty easy then to solve for A in terms of R? So you solve for A, just divide both sides by R, and you'd have 2 over R. That's not too hard. Why would you want to do that? Because the other equation, using the 42, would be 42 equals A times R to the, well, it's the fourth term, so I'd use 4 minus 1, which would be 3. And then if I solve this one for A, and it's 2 over R, couldn't I just put 2 over R wherever there was an A, like maybe right there, and then you could solve it for R? So 42 is equal to, what was A again? 2 over R times R to the third. I'm going to put that over 1 just to make it abundantly clear that those R's would cancel, and I get 42 is equal to 2R squared. So I divide by 42, divide by 2 on both sides, and I get 21 equals R squared. So the square root of 21. So R is the square root of 21. Could I figure out A? Yep. If R is equal to the square root of 21, and by the way, it's technically plus and minus the square root of 21. Why could R be negative? Because you get, if I multiplied this up and got a negative number and then multiplied it by a negative R, it would turn into a positive. It could be negative. So R could be plus or minus the square root of 21. So then how do you get this term? Well, and to go from here to here, you multiply by the square root of 21. So how about if you want to go from here to here? You divide by the square root of 21. So this would be 2 divided by the square root of 21. And it could be positive or negative because we don't know whether the R was positive or negative. So it could be either one. Okay, there's an example of how you could solve a difficult one using the formulas. And now I want you to actually have a chance to practice that. And this is not everything you can be tested on, but this has a really good, healthy dose of stuff you're going to have to know for the test. Okay? And your assignment is to do this in class with people that you're here with. And then before the end of the hour, I'm going to hand you that blue packet, which is the take-home final. Remember, you are allowed to work with others, but you can't copy anybody's work. All right, and I think that's all I'm going to have for the video for today. I'm going to pause just in case I want to add more.